call the meeting to order now that we were being recorded at 7:03. Welcome everybody to our regularly scheduled planning and zoning meeting. As you can see, we are video conferencing in the time of COVID, and I would ask everybody that because we're on Zoom and video conferencing that we are all somewhat patient with any potential delays with the technology, and let's be patient and talk around each other and not over each other. So that being said, we've got myself and Mark and Adam and Alice and Daryl as seated members, and I will elevate Ann to voting status. And we will admit other members of the commission as they join. I'm going to jump right into agenda item 3A, and those are the special meeting minutes of May 14th.
I can't tell if they can see us. Supposed to be.
And if there are, I should say this, that if we're not speaking, let's try to keep ourselves on mute until we're ready to speak.
Matt, those are regular meeting minutes. I think you said special meeting minutes.
There's actually two. There's the special meeting minutes, and that was really just the executive session. And then we have the regular meeting minutes as well.
That's right. The first one, Adam, on the agenda are the special minutes.
I guess I didn't see those.
There's not much there.
It basically was just opening the meeting, going into executive session, coming out of the meeting. That's really all it was.
Okay.
So I would look for a motion to approve those minutes as written.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay, then I'm going to move on to agenda item 3B, which are the regular meeting minutes of May 14th, 2020. And I would look for a motion to approve those as written.
I'll make that motion.
Adam, Mark,
move.
Either way, I think Mark beat me.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I will ask, is there anybody in the audience who has business before the commission that's not on the agenda? Okay, great. And I typed, hi, Karen. So Karen joined us, but we're still, that still leaves a space for Ann to vote. So we'll keep Ann elevated. Oh, and then I would look for a motion to move agenda item 6B1 and 6B2 ahead of agenda item 6A1.
I'll make that motion.
Looking for a second. Okay, Annie, thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, so then let's make it through the old business. And I'll go right to 5B1, which is the discussion on creating a revised definition of convalescent home or similar institutional term. I know that I have been interested in pursuing this, but honestly, I haven't thought about it in depth. You know, I thought about it a little bit this afternoon, but I have not thought about it in depth enough to make any recommendations myself. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to bring up?
I feel like it's been harder to get to that being on Zoom, and I don't mind if we continue that to next meeting.
I think we should table it to the next meeting, and perhaps some of us that are particularly interested in this could sit down with Donna and prepare some potential definitions that we can work from rather than just the word. That's just a suggestion, but it's very hard to do under these circumstances, I think.
I think that's a good idea.
I agree also.
Okay, so that sounds great, Alice. I agree wholeheartedly with that, and it sounds like a motion and a second to table this to the next regular meeting, with the hope that maybe one or two of us can get together through Donna and talk about some ideas.
Well, you know, if we do that and a couple of us get together with Donna, that's a meeting. So we can't do it like that, but we can create a subcommittee of a couple of people to work with Donna over the next month to create some ideas and definitions, and then it can be presented to the commission. I don't know if that's a bad idea, but
Yeah, that's
Perhaps some of us who are real interested in this might just write down some notes and submit it to Donna, and then she can collate whatever. We don't have to have a meeting per se. What do you think? Donna's shaking her head yes, so I would suggest we individually submit ideas
okay.
if anybody's interested.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. You know, just, I started it, I pulled some things together.
Right.
You know, we can compile whatever information that we have together and then try to get it to the commission for July.
I'm afraid that there might be some sensitivity in coming up with this definition with respect to the litigation that we're now subject to. I think we may want to ask our lawyers about that.
I think that's a good point. Matt, what do you think?
I think that's a good point too. I was thinking more in lines with what Alice was thinking, that individuals would go through Donna and it not be a meeting. But I think Mark makes a good point too. So Mark, would you suggest that that Donna explore that question with Ziska?
Yes.
That's fine with me. Donna, what do you think? Do we need a motion for that, or?
No, I don't think so. No, I think it's fine. Just during the course of discussion, I don't think we need a motion for that.
Okay. All right, great. So we've got a motion and a second, and have had some discussion on tabling this until the next meeting. And let's have a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so moving right along to agenda item 5B2, and this is another planning item, which is the schedule, the rewrite of the zone, of the subdivision regulations.
Yeah, I think with the fact that the town hall is close to the public right now, trying to get people to come in here, you can't. So for us to meet, to set up any kind of meetings to talk about the subdivision regs at this point in time is a little bit problematic and hard to do. So my recommendation is to table it until we figure out when town hall is open. The tentative date right now is September 1st. But that is subject to change based on any kind of executive orders that are coming out of the governor's office.
Okay, so we'll keep it on the agenda and then just continue to table it each regular meeting, yes? Okay, so a motion and a second, and then we'll vote on tabling this too.
I make that motion. That we table the subdivision discussion.
I'll second.
Okay, great. Then all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, great. So then let's go right to 6B1, which is the lot line revision between 10 North Main Street, map 19, block 42, lot 29, and 9 Maple Street, map 19, block 42, lot 35. And I was hesitating there because I wanted to make sure that this wasn't a public hearing that we had to open. Is that correct, Donna? Was it's not a public hearing?
No, it's not a public hearing.
Okay, great. So this is this item is on the agenda because of a discussion that we had regarding the application that we're going to discuss under 6B2, and we had requested that the lot lines be revised so that the parking spaces in question were not sort of straddled by they didn't straddle two separate lots. The applicant has come back and put together a lot line revision that we are now being asked, or we're tasked with approving or not objecting to, right?
Right, just to clarify, it's not the parking spaces. Oh no, you know what? I think maybe it is. I'm looking at the site plan that Gary sent.
Mhm.
Didn't we shifted those parking spaces farther south? Right? So what Gary has given us is not correct now that I'm looking at it.
Donna, Gary, when he was plotting the lot line adjustment, he discovered that the plan that he was this was yesterday, the plan that he was working from was not correct. It was a plan that had been submitted to the commission from the landscape architect some time ago, and it didn't precisely locate the 3 spaces. They are being shifted as we discussed. And he simply didn't have time to redo the plan. But that will be revised as per the discussions that we've had.
Okay, so then Matt's comment is correct then, that what happened was the original property line went through the parking spaces.
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
As amended, as proposed, the shifting of the parking spaces caused them to fall in a location where they would straddle that property line.
Right, and actually I think, Matt, it was your suggestion to move the lot line as we've done.
I agree with that, Hiram, and I believe that I compared the drawings from the last time to the lot lines. I was a little bit confused as to how the lot lines were being changed, but I pulled up the information from our last meeting and saw that the way the lot line has been revised, it certainly satisfies it's my concern it's okay with me that the lot line, I'm glad, Harman, that you're going to change it to correct it to the proposed locations of those parking spaces. But for my purposes tonight, I think that the way the lot line is revised is adequate.
Okay, thanks. Chris, if you and Tom may have additional comments. Chris, comments, sorry.
No, I think you've covered everything, Hiram,
Okay.
from my viewpoint.
So if Hiram, there's nothing else that you want to present to the commission, then I would ask Donna if she's got anything else that she would add.
No, they did, I guess I can add that they did go in front of the Architectural Review Board. The Architectural Review Board has approved the modifications that have been proposed without any comment at all, except that everything looked really good. And so they're all set to go. I know during the Architectural Review Board meeting, Hiram had asked me to find out some information about the ramps that come up on either side of the entrance in between where the bookstore is and where 10 North Main is. Remember, you had asked me about the width of those, with the widths of those kind of handicap ramps, were they going to need to be changed based on what the state had done? And I did talk to Rick, and he said, no, what is there will stay there, because the handicap ramps that the state put in, they only put in at the crosswalks.
Right.
And because there is no crosswalk in front of either 10 North Main or 4, then there is no reason for that area to be changed at all.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I did talk to him about the impact that Streetscape might possibly have on your proposal to put cobblestone on your property. And he
Right.
said it would not. But he did say that if you're going to put anything underground, you better put it in now.
Right.
If you want to use it later on. But he said that anything that the Streetscape is going to do would not impose on any of the personal property. It would just be in the area that is part of the state right of way.
Beyond the property line, right.
Exactly. So you should be all set to do what it is that you want to do there and not have to worry about anything. But that's what I was assured.
Right. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, so it sounds like we're slipping a little bit into the next, into 6B2. So Donna, the lot line revision requires a motion and a second, right, and a vote? Okay.
Yes, it does.
Great. So then if there's no other questions for the applicant or for Donna, then I would look for a motion to approve the lot line revision.
I'll move that we approve the lot line revision between 10 North Main Street, map 19, block 42, lot 29, and 9 Maple Street, map 19, block 42, lot 35.
Second.
Any further discussion? Annie, were you about to say something, or were you just looking to second it? Okay. Then all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So then let's move on to agenda item 6B2, which is the modification application number 74-17C, Hiram Williams for Kent Center LLC, 10 North Main Street, alterations to existing building and change of use from residential commercial to commercial. Map 19, block 42, lot 29. Modifications to include new configuration of the required second means of egress from the existing gallery, installation of 2 accessibility ramps, outdoor terrace associated with the retail space at the southeast corner of the new addition, creation of 1 service yard to house required mechanical systems, relocation of 3 parking spaces, and respective changes to the approved planting plan. So Hiram and Jason and Tom, I'm sorry, Chris and Tom, you guys have anything to say? I'd open the floor to you 3.
I defer to Chris and Tom,
Uh,
the architects.
I don't really have anything to add from what was presented last time, except that we're very grateful that the Architectural Review Board approved the plan as we submitted it. I think unless there are any questions, which I'm very happy to answer, I think we're in the same position as we were as pertains the plan as we were last month.
Okay, Donna, anything to add?
No, the one point in time, there was a discussion about what the egress stairs on the back of the building were going to be made out of, and I believe that the commission, the Architecture Review Board, had really had no issue with the texture or whatever it was that you were going to be using. So that would be the only thing that they actually brought up. So I don't have anything else.
Are there any questions from the members of the commission for the applicant? Okay, so I would for a motion to approve the application.
Okay, I'll do it. Move that we approve the modification of application number 74-17C, Hiram Williams Pretend Center, LLC, 10 North Main Street, alterations to existing building and change of use from residential commercial to commercial, map 19, block 42, lot 29. Modifications to include new configuration of the required second means of egress from the existing gallery, installation of 2 accessibility ramps, outdoor terrace associated with the retail space at the southeast corner of the new addition, creation of 1 service yard to house required mechanical systems, relocation of 3 parking spaces, and respective changes to the approved planting plan.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, thank you both. The only real objection that I had at the last meeting had to do with that parking space and the lot line. So, you know, as far as I can see, I'm okay with this application. Is there any more discussion that needs to be had? Then I would call a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Matt, thanks to you and the commission, and Donna, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time and your assistance with this. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, well, so before we go into 6A1, I just want to take another tally of the commissioners. Got myself and Mark and Alice and Annie and Daryl and Karen and David and Adam. Did I miss anybody?
I'll be recusing myself.
Okay, then Daryl will recuse himself and will elevate David to voting status. And that gets us to 7. Okay, so.
The only question that I had is, for some reason, Karen is showing up twice. And I don't know if anybody else can see that or if I'm the only one.
I see her twice. I see her picture, and then I have a black box that has her name.
I think I just physicsed it. Maybe not.
Yeah,
Oh.
Karen, we can hear you through your second. We can see you through your video feed, and we can hear you audio through your second feed. So it seems to me that that's fine. If no, I promise I won't count you twice.
Okay. What's going on?
Okay, so Donna, do I have to read the public notice back into record?
I think I would.
Fine.
I don't think it hurts any. I mean, what you can do is you can make a motion to waive the reading of the public notice, since it was on the town's website and also in the newspaper, but that would be up to you guys.
Yeah, I don't mind. I just wanted to go through the protocol, whether we should or not. So I'll just read it and be done with it. Not be done with it, but I think it's okay to read it in. Okay, so I'm going to open up agenda item 6A1, which is a public hearing. And here is the notice of public hearing. The Town of Kent Planning and Zoning Commission shall hold a public hearing via Zoom meeting on Thursday, June 11th, 2020, during a Zoom meeting beginning at 7 p.m. to discuss and possibly act on modification to application number 106-18SP and 107-18C by High Watch Recovery Center, Inc. for 54 Carter Road, map 14, block 22, lot 6, 62 Carter Road, map 14, block 22, lot 7, and the 15.48 acre unimproved parcel of land, map 14, block 21, lot 23, parcel ID number 1486, abutting northerly line of Carter Road and the southeasterly line of 47 Carter Road for a special permit and site plan approval for the following. Construction of two-story addition, including offices, 218-seat lecture hall and 12-bed detoxification wing to existing administrative and clinical office building at 62 Carter Road. Single-story addition and kitchen expansion to dining hall at 62 Carter Road. Addition of detoxification service at 62 Carter Road. Increase in total residential inpatient bed count from 78 to 90 at 62 Carter Road. Conducting therapeutic activities, including temporary housing of staff associated with the treatment of drug and alcohol addiction at 54 Carter Road. Constructing expanded landscaping, vegetative screening, driveway entrance, parking area, retaining wall and stormwater detention basin at 54 Carter Road and 62 Carter Road. Constructing new septic system on parcel ID number 1486 and associated site work on all three parcels. Modifications to include construction of exterior staircase, proposed future metal gazebo, creation of 3 additional detox therapy group session rooms, creation of 5 additional office spaces, creation of elevated walkway from second floor of detox building, associated roofline adjustments due to creation of additional office spaces, removal of 2-tiered wall system, removal of connecting sidewalk at the northeast corner of the pharmacy, slight site alterations due to an additional egress stair, new exterior walk-in cooler and freezer, and reduction of parking spaces. Any corresponding documentation will be attached to the official agenda. At this hearing, persons may participate and be heard, and written communication can be received. The Zoom meeting number can be located on the official agenda that will be filed on the Town of Kent website's a minimum of 24 hours prior to the official Zoom meeting. Matt Winter, Chairman. And then I also understand that there is a letter that I should read into the record. And give me a minute while it opens. Okay, I've got it. This is from Linda and Daniel Plummer, 25 Carter Road, Kent, Connecticut, 06757. And it reads as follows.
Matt? I thought we had determined that if the letter was circulated to the entire, it was part of the notice and went to the full board, that these letters didn't have to be read into the record at the meetings. I thought we talked about that after after all those letters were read in and at the Gunn hearing. And I thought we had concluded that if, like I said, if they're part of the notice and circulated to the entire board, that they're therefore part of the record and don't need to be read in.
I'm having trouble hearing Mark.
Mark Annie is saying that he believes that we do not need to read the public communication into the record because it's part of the record. And he believes that we had this discussion after the last time. Well, it was probably the firearm stores where we had so much public communication that I don't remember that conclusion, Mark, but I would certainly defer to the balance of the commission. If that's what everybody remembers, then I'm okay not reading it in.
I remember the discussion. I just don't remember what the decision was.
Well, I guess my question is, did everyone on the commission who received the packet actually read the letter that was submitted with the documentation?
I did.
I did, but one would, I mean, to ask that question, you're going to have to ask it on every item. Of course, I read it. It seems Mark's proposal makes perfect sense to me, but there's
We already have litigation going on with the neighbor, and I don't want to do something that that we shouldn't. This is a kind of a big deal place right now, and it's one letter.
Okay, so here's what I suggest. If it's the pleasure of the commission, let me read this into the record now. Donna has been tasked with asking our attorney a question already. So let's have her slip that in and see if we can't get some free advice.
Good idea.
Okay. Mark, I think your suggestion is really great. I think it could streamline the meetings. But let me read it.
Yep.
Okay. Members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Carter Road is in a rural residential zone. Highwatch Recovery has repeatedly applied for special permits. They keep violating Kent planning and zoning regulations and threaten to sue if they don't get what they want. When their expansion was approved, there were several conditions attached. They were very upset that they were being asked to put up a wall. The detox building is right on the road. The commission allowed them to reduce the size of the wall to a 2-tiered wall system. Now they are asking to remove this wall completely. They want to add 3 additional detox rooms in addition to the 12 that they were approved for. They want to modify their plans to add 5 additional office spaces. They want to add an elevated walkway from the 2nd floor of the detox building. They want you to approve a roofline adjustment to create additional office space. They want to remove a connecting sidewalk at the pharmacy. They want to construct an exterior staircase with slight site alterations. Now they're asking to construct a future metal gazebo. They already have a circus tent. They have been building the addition on the Red Barn Dining Hall. They have at least 4 trailers next to the barn. Now they have decided that they need a new exterior walk-in cooler and freezer. It is outrageous for Highwatch Recovery to ask for a reduction in parking spaces. Every weekend, visitors park along Carter Road. During their picnic, they park at 47 Carter Road that was illegally clear-cut. The Kent Volunteer Fire Department directs traffic with our resident state trooper. Highwatch Recovery thinks we are stupid. They laugh that they can get away with anything, or they threaten to sue the Kent Planning and Zoning Commission. They sued the State of Connecticut Department of Health, the Connecticut Office of Health Strategy, and Birch Hill Recovery for granting Birch Hill Recovery a certificate of need. Their case was dismissed. On Saturday, June 6th, 2020, at 7 a.m. in the morning, cement mixers were going up and down Carter Road. They want to pour the footings and foundations so that you will have to approve their plans. They know that no one will be inspecting them on the weekend. They should be fined for all the illegal construction they have done in the past. There are times that fully loaded dump trucks going up Carter Road cannot make the hill. They stall and have to back down and start up again. I'm very concerned that there is going to be a deadly accident. I called Michael Hart with the DEP to make him aware of the changes and additions that Highwatch is trying to make to their construction. This will affect the septic systems and the amount of water they can discharge into the environment. I emailed him and I'm waiting for a reply. I also contacted Torrington Area Health and spoke with Kathy Polito and Leslie. As a nurse, I am very concerned with COVID-19. There are 8 confirmed COVID-19 cases in Kent and 4 cases are at Highwatch Recovery. They brought in FEMA trailers. I have observed Highwatch patients out on the road playing volleyball with no masks and playing volleyball with no masks and no social distancing. Then I saw patients sitting on the deck at Highwatch watching the construction with no masks and no social distancing. 2 women from Highwatch walked down and back up Carter Road with no masks and no social distancing. This is outrageous and threatens the health and safety of all residents of Kent. Highwatch Recovery has increased their bed count from 78 to 90 beds, but in reality, they have many more. They use 47 Carter Road and 48 Carter Road as temporary housing for staff. Their staff are recovering drug addicts and alcoholics. We have lived in Kent since 1976. I have fond memories of attending Camp Francis. We do not want to move. Kent is unsurpassed in beauty. Highwatch has depreciated our property values. Highwatch wants the taxpayers to provide them with a paid ambulance service. We are asking the Kent Planning and Zoning Commission to deny any more changes to Highwatch's special permits. You have the authority to deny these changes. Please protect our public health, safety, welfare, and property values. Thank you, Linda and Daniel Palmer. Okay, so with that, Donna, would you run us through the synopsis?
Sure, but did you make a motion to open the public hearing at like 7:30? What you did was you read the legal notice into the record.
That's right. I read the legal notice into the record. I did not open the public hearing, and then I read the communication. I would like to open the public hearing now. Please don't make me read that again.
I think it'd be okay.
Okay, so I'm going to open the public hearing. And now I'll turn it over to Donna.
You're muted, Donna.
Thanks. Sometimes I talk out loud to myself, so we'll consider it that. Let's do it this way. So when I got the plans, what I did was I actually went through all of the sheets one by one and actually put together a synopsis of actually what was going on, because it was just, there are so many little things that are being affected. It's like a domino effect. So if you look at sheet, and I think what I ended up doing was I actually highlighted everything, I circled everything, put numbers next to everything and color coded it. So if you look at sheet number A004, what they did was they moved the interior staircase to the outside, and that foundation has already been completed. With item number 2 on that sheet, they enclosed a little, there's a little porch that was there. They enclosed that little porch and they created 2 additional offices, each one at 150 square feet. Because they're moving the interior staircase to the outside, they have now taken that space that was on the inside, that was part of the staircase, and they've created now a group room, family therapy room for 217 square feet. The floor plan for the pharmacy has been slightly modified. The size is the same. It's just more, it seems to be a little bit easier to navigate and a little bit more user-friendly, from what I can tell. If you look, rooms B130 and B121, they are changed to single bed quarantine rooms. A connector has been narrowed and increased in height to accept the new location of the retaining wall. 2 separate gender toilet rooms have been reduced to 1 unisex, and the second bathroom designation was changed. And now there's a proposed future metal gazebo that sits outside in that little courtyard area. And I know it says proposed, but I've included it on here because if I didn't and they decided that they wanted to build it, they were going to have to come back in for another modification. So it's on there.
Donna, are these all in the 11 by 17? 6A?
They should be, yes. Because for me to send you guys a package of the full size, it just doesn't fit. So what I do is I create them on the large sheets, I sync them, I shrink them down to the 11 by 17s, and then send them off to you that way.
So Donna, are the alterations to their plan that they're proposing to make, are they adding square foot onto their footprint, where these are all changes that they're making, but they're within the footprints that we've already approved?
The basic footprint of the building, the only way that that has changed is with the construction of the exterior staircase. All the rest of the things, what they did was there was an attic space on the second floor, and if you'll when they walk through their presentation, you'll see that the roof line has been extended over the entire building, and they built out that interior area and actually added 4 new offices, relocated the mechanical room, and changed the size of one of the group therapy rooms. So as a result of that, the roof line has changed, and the exterior staircase, and then there's the addition of square footage, usable square footage, which wasn't there and was not included in the total square footage of the addition that was originally approved.
So they're not making these buildings bigger, with the exception of the addition of the exterior staircase. Pretty much everything is an interior modification and change to roof lines.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the footprint of what is existing has not changed. They've added an exterior ramp from that second floor. So they're redoing some of the walls that they were using, the retaining walls that they were using to hold back things. You know, walkways have been changed and redirected. They've gone through inland wetlands for the modification to the inland wetlands permit because part of that was in the regulated area.
Was
So-
the external freezer, walk-in freezer also added on?
That walk-in freezer, there's 2 of them. They've been, that's at the dining hall. So they've increased the footprint of the dining hall by moving the freezers to the exterior of the building. So that would be the only change to the footprint at that point in time there.
So it's, I think an argument could be made that there's an added footprint with that second means of egress that's required after, it appears that it's required after they make some of the changes to the second floor of the detox wing.
Right.
Now I know that's an egress stair, but it appears that some of it is enclosed. So it's certainly from a plan view, that's an increase in it appears to be an increase in impermeable surface. So I think that what I've had a hard time trying to figure out what the changes are from an elevation standpoint. So I'd like to know a little bit more about that from the applicant. So can we let the applicant chime in and make a presentation to us that we can then ask questions?
Yeah, sure. I know Jason and I had communicated earlier. He had asked if it would be possible to go ahead and share his screen. I mean, applicants have been doing it. It's actually pretty cool the way that it works. So I told them to feel free to do so.
Absolutely. So Jason, if you wanna take the lead and then hand off to your team as necessary, I'll put myself on mute and you have the floor.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Jason Perillo. I am the Vice President of Communications at Highwatch. I am joined somewhere on your screen by Mike Doherty from MMI, as well as Paul Jorgensen and Marco Costantini from Silver Petroselli. On the technical things, they'll chime in. I'm going to try and walk you through this as best as possible, and you know, just bear with me. This is clunky, but I tried to present. I'm going to try and present this in a way that's easy in this format. So, Donna, I can just go ahead and share my screen. Does everybody see that? Okay. So just to give us some perspective here, what you see on the left-hand side of your screen is what was approved and what is before you now. As was mentioned, the footprint, the footprint proper hasn't changed, and we'll get through some of those things that Donna mentioned momentarily. And on the map on the right, you can see the orientation here. So basically at the top of your screen and is Carter Road, and at the bottom of your screen is the hill and the woods. So that sort of gives you some perspective, you know, the woods being back here, Carter Road being up here, and all this, of course, in white is existing, and everything that is in gray is new. So let's just sort of take these one at a time. And the first of which is parking. And these were changes made primarily due to safety, and I kind of want to walk you through why. So this is on the upper area of campus. This is all existing. So this is our dining hall and the kitchen, which was alluded to previously. Over to the left-hand side of your screen, these are all existing structures. And this is our upper parking lot. We are proposing to remove parking spaces here, a total of 13. Which gives us 116 spaces. I believe that the zoning regulations call for 103, so we're still in excess of what is required in your regulations. But there's a very simple reason why we've removed these. This is a very heavily traveled pedestrian area, and it's also very tight. And we really want to the best of our ability, minimize vehicle traffic in an area where there's so much pedestrian traffic. And it's not, honestly, it's not just vehicle traffic, but it's a lot of backing, turning movements, because these are perpendicular spaces. You know, I've pulled out of those spaces and I've had near misses. We really just wanted to minimize that risk. And because we had enough parking between the 70 spaces that are down below and the, and I keep pointing at my screen, and the 46 that are up above, that still gets us to where we need to be in order to meet regulations. And we think it's going to be in excess of what we need to operate. So we just thought this was an opportunity to make things a little bit safer for our guests and employees as they walk through here. This road will continue to exist. It is an existing road now. It'll continue to exist. It's just that you know, these turning movements and backing risks will be eliminated. So that's sort of where we go. But as we sort of move into the rest of the changes, let me just sort of give you a sense. So most of the slides, for the most part, will look like this. Towards the left will be either elevations or floor plan changes, and at the top right will be sort of your orientation on the map, if that sort of gives a sense of what you're looking at here. So this is the area of our detox center, and what you'll see is a continuing theme throughout all of these changes is that they're really, many of them, almost all of them, are a byproduct of what we've experienced in the last few months in regard to COVID-19. And that's exactly what we have here in our detox area. So both where my pointer is there and here, those are 2 new bedrooms with 2 bathrooms included. So that's an addition of 2 bedrooms and with the sole purpose of providing isolation. As you know, you as a commission have approved our ability to utilize temporary trailer space. In fact, it was alluded to, was mentioned in the letter that you received. That's there for a specific reason. It's there to keep people safe. We've been able to isolate people in those spaces. And, you know, because Hiawash and the commission worked together on that, we were able to keep a lot of people safe and a lot of people healthy. So that's the goal of these 2 additional rooms. So we don't have that space now. We do isolate people when they get sick, be it with the flu or other illnesses, but it's really suboptimal. It's not what it could be. And we saw this as an opportunity to take advantage of the space that was there and create 2 additional spaces. Now, that said, I do want to point something out. Even though that adds 2 beds, that does not permit us to add 2 patients. We've applied to the state for 12 additional beds. We have approval from the commission for 12 additional beds. That means patients. So we could have 90 patients on our campus at any given time. We cannot have 92. So just because those 2 beds are added, that does not give us license or permission to have any additional patients on campus. We simply cannot do that under the public health regulations and under your existing approval. And we're not asking for an addition of patients. In addition to that, you'll notice right here that we've added, not as much added, we moved a therapy room. There had been a therapy room that was cannibalized in doing this. This was a stairwell, sort of a convenience stairwell that's not needed because there's egress from the first floor here, and I'll get to the second floor as well, and you'll see that there's at grade egress there as well. But again, this was really focused on providing ourselves an opportunity to keep people safe when isolation is required. So let me move on, and again, if there are questions, just stop me at any time. Again, with that goal of keeping people safe and honestly keeping guests away from offices and staff as much as possible, which is something we're trying to do now. We originally intended that, and if you're familiar with our campus, you know where our admissions office is. It is existing. It's in our main office building. You know, we admit folks through that area. And the plan was originally that we would continue to admit folks through that area in perpetuity, whether they be residential guests or detox guests. But you realize that, you know, it doesn't seem like a long way because it's a little thing on the, you know, little picture on our drawing here, but in reality, it's actually a pretty long walk. And we'd have to walk patients past an awful lot of individuals before they could even be assessed by nursing. So we'd basically be traipsing incoming guests through the bulk of the office space before they could even be assessed. So we said, well, let's move admissions to the front of the building. And by front, I mean the building that faces the new parking lot, so that folks could come in, they could park, they could walk right in the main entrance, and there would be admissions, there would be nursing. But we had to do 2 things to make that happen. First, we needed to add more office space because our admissions office requirement is more than what was already here. You'll notice, you know, there are bathrooms here, so not all of this is really conducive to office. So as Donna had mentioned, this space that I'm pointing to right here had been a covered patio area. You know, if you call it what you want, but that's essentially what it was. We are proposing to enclose that space with an exit still available, but enclose that space and add 2 additional offices to accommodate our admission staff. And in addition, also, as Donna mentioned, there was a stairwell here. I'll get in a little bit more detail on that momentarily, but there was a stairwell here which we eliminate, and we're able to create a group and family room. So further on the concept of, you know, the COVID-19 reality, there are 2 reasons why we do this. Currently, and in our proposal, our admission staff works staggered shifts depending on the day. So they actually share office space. You can have multiple people using the same office. The new reality is that we need to get away from that. So you'll see in areas where we've created additional office space, it's to accommodate the fact that we can't have people sharing the same office anymore. And we wanted to be able to do this and honor the original footprint that the commission had approved, and this was a way to do it. We could add those offices add those offices over here without expanding the footprint, and we could create a group room in that stairwell area without adding to the footprint. And we are, just as with the office space and the sharing of space and the concerns that come along with that, we're also experiencing that with our group space. We anticipate having to run more frequent groups with fewer people. That likelihood is there, so we need to create additional group space. And you'll see it, as we sort of conclude. I'll give a summary of what kind of space we've added. You'll see that theme of additional group space mentioned frequently. The only other thing that we did here in terms of moving the admissions department to the front and just sort of regain our bearings here, what I'm pointing to now is actually the main entrance. And there was a small vestibule here, which we've simply eliminated. It is not major by any stretch of the imagination, but I did just want to point it out because that was something we did to make the admissions function work there. So it's not a big deal, but I just want to make sure that you folks had an opportunity to see it. Now think back, this is the previous one. Remember this stairwell we removed. Well, we didn't really need it to get to the second floor. And obviously once you remove the stairwell on the first floor, you remove the stairwell above it. So it was a great size for a group room on the first floor. It's a great size for a group room on the second floor. So we did the exact same thing up here on the second floor above that admission space that we had done on the first floor. So this just becomes another group room. And again, the new reality is simply that we're going to have to shrink the size of our groups and offer more group sessions. And we needed the space to do that. And this really fit the bill for us pretty simply. But let's stick with that staircase for a moment. As Donna mentioned, the only, on this main structure here, the only true change in the footprint is this external stairwell. Because in removing this whole stairwell internally, we still had to get out of the basement. So the solution was to build this external stair. Now keep in mind, this is from the basement, so it is not visible. This isn't a stairwell from the first floor to the second. This is from the basement to grade. So all of this will be underground, with the exception, of course, of the fact that there will be a covering here. It will match the roofing on the existing building it's attached to. Obviously the aesthetics are going to be very, very nice, but it certainly won't be visible from the road. It'll only be visible from the parking lot. But we still had to get out of the basement. So this is how we chose to do it. And obviously we want it to look nice. It's right in front of the main entrance. So it's got to look good. But that is the change there. And like I said, we still had to, we had to get out of the basement. So that this was our treatment for how we addressed that. Donna also mentioned the addition of square footage above our detox space. And this simply was a practical matter. As Donna mentioned, the mechanical room moved, we get 4 additional offices here. And to sort of put it in perspective, what I'm circling here, this view, what's circled in yellow is that new roof line. It's not long at all. It follows with the other planned roof line exactly. So it doesn't look out of place. It looks like it fits in perfectly. And quite frankly, it's, if you're looking at this view, if you're seeing where my blue pointer is, you're standing in the woods on a hill. Nobody can see it. And then even if you go above, which is of course the other side, which theoretically faces the road, you can't see it from the road because the auditorium and the rest of the building are in front of that. So this entire change from an external perspective, from an architectural perspective, can't be seen from the road at all. Quite frankly, I wouldn't mind if it could be because it looks really nice, but it just can't. So I wanted to point that out, that we do get about 800 square feet of additional space for 4 offices by doing this. But Mr. Chairman, to your point, you were concerned about the visual changes from the outside, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that was something you had mentioned at the last meeting. I just wanted to point out that actually, the changes that are made are going to be very aesthetically pleasing, and you're not going to be able to see them from the road anyways. Not that we would make it ugly if you couldn't, but it's still going to be really nice. Now, this is something that I may need some help from Mike Doherty on, because this gets a little technical. So Mike, if I say something stupid, let me know. But this is in reference to the change to the retaining wall. So again, to give your bearing, so this is the detox area. We were just talking about this building right now. Behind us is woods. You know, Carter Road is way, way, way on the above your computer screen. As you remember, the commission approved a 2-tiered wall system. You know, once we got into the ground, the engineers and builders realized, hey, we can actually do this with less disturbance and more green space if we just do one wall. So that was really the point of this. As Donna mentioned, this has been through wetlands, but that's really, it's not really a very big change. I mean, I guess you'll be the you can determine that. But the goal was to eliminate that second tier. It kind of got bulky, and this was one way to do it that made sense. It really would allowed us to sort of minimize the disruption in this area, and with proper grading that we didn't think we could do, but we actually could. And when we got into the ground, we realized that this is something that we could make work. The other thing, I'm not going to end with this because I know you're going to have a bunch of questions. But this next thing, which is different, and where I'm sort of embarrassed to talk about it, but this is the main entrance. As you may recall, so this is coming from the parking lot, the new main parking lot with 70 spaces. This is what our proposal is for that new main entrance to look like. As you may recall, in the original approved plan, that was glass. It was very nice. The problem was that when we had great, bigger renderings drawn up, and some of our staff were in the office looking at it. One of them, who had worked at another recovery center not too far from us, informed us that it looked exactly like the entrance to that other recovery center, which would have looked a little bit foolish. And we sort of tail between our legs said, well, we really can't do that. I mean, I was kind of wondering if Paul Jorgensen, his guys, went up there and copied it, but indeed they did not. But this is what it would look like now. I do want to point out that the cupola is plus or minus 6 inches, about the same height as the auditorium, meaning that even though this is higher than what was originally proposed, you will still not see it from the road. And if you, you're not going to see it. If you were trying really, really hard, especially with all that vegetation in our landscaping plan, I guess you could kind of maybe see it for 3 seconds as you were coming up the hill. But it's a pretty aesthetically pleasing building. It fits in with everything else we're doing on the site. But honestly, we really just needed to get away from that steel and glass structure. It's just, like I said, it really just looked like somebody who is a few towns away. And it just didn't work. It just didn't work. But just sort of to close before you have questions, just to sort of recap. So net, there are 4 additional offices. There are 4 additional group rooms, and there are 2 additional bedrooms. And again, that don't permit us to have 92 patients. It's just isolation. So if we had people in those rooms, they just wouldn't be in other bedrooms. So at the end of the day, all these little changes amount to, material changes. But it's 4 offices, 4 group rooms, and 2 bedrooms. I was on my town's planning and zoning commission for a long time, so I get it. But no, sadly, none of this generates any additional revenue. This is all just to make the flow go a little easier, keep people safe. We're not a real estate developer trying to eke out 2 more retail units on the first floor, or squeeze a couple of extra studios on the 3rd floor of an apartment building. I mean, this doesn't generate revenue for us. This is really just about making the operation go more smoothly and more safely. This is, we run a recovery center. So you might ask, well, why are you coming to us with these changes now? This is literally our first rodeo. So we have learned as we've gone. And as, you know, during the course of the last 3 months with COVID-19, in the course of looking at things and looking at plans and getting suggestions from employees, that's really why we come to you with these changes. And I'm certainly happy to entertain as many questions as you have, and as many as I can answer.
Thanks, Jason. Is there anybody else on your team who you would like to invite to speak, or you think you're set?
Yeah, no, I think at this stage in the game we're okay, but I guarantee you will have questions that I can't answer, and that you know, one of those guys can. So when they can do so, by all means, guys, please chime in.
Can you explain the original changes to the dining hall and then the new set of changes to the dining hall that came in just the other day?
Yep. Let me find it for you. Absolutely.
And I can also jump in, Jason. Paul Jorgensen from Silver Petroselli. The changes that we made to the dining hall primarily are the cooler and freezer addition in the back. But we also recently, as of last week, we actually added just an exterior entrance with a little vestibule next to the cooler freezer to allow the flow to work better into that freezer. We realized that the flow of material through the cooler and freezer would work much better if we added the small vestibule on the back of the building. So that was sent to the health department as well as you, Donna, early this week. I guess it was Monday or Friday and Monday we sent. That is the exterior change to the building. Inside the building, this prompted two changes, really. One is there was an office on the main level adjacent to the kitchen, which is circled in this plan. That office was prime real estate in the plan, and the decision was that it wasn't being occupied full time, so the office could be put in the lower level in the basement, essentially, to use to help order food and material, and that space could be better utilized for a small group type dining area. So this would be for when vendors come in, or if it was small groups that needed to come in, separate from the main dining hall. This area of the building could be better utilized than having a part-time office, and we rotated the stair to gain a little bit more space. That is essentially the change to the inside of the building. The exterior really is the small vestibule and the cooler freezer.
Yeah, and I can sort of add to that too. That small sort of group area on the side is, you know, selfishly is kind of for me and my folks, because we do a lot of sessions with social workers. We've really started doing a lot more education. And, you know, they tend to like to eat if they're with us all day. And this just creates an opportunity for them to do that and socialize. And we can even do little small sessions where we're doing a lot of webinars now, but obviously for obvious reasons, but that's going to change as we've done these in the past, and they've been very successful.
Okay, so I've got a couple of questions. The first, I think, is for the engineers, the engineering, and I've got two questions. So, how is it that the planning, where we thought we required a two-tiered retaining wall back behind, what is that, to the east of the detox wing, that now we can get away with one? Were the grades simply not analyzed properly? And number two is, I understand from the information from Malone and McBroom that we're going to be able to, or you guys are proposing some reduction in storm drainage, and I'd like to hear a little bit about how that squares.
Sure. For the record, Mike Doherty, landscape architect with Malone and McBroom. So your first question on the wall system, number of times in construction, you have a survey and you look out in the field and it appears as though you may need a higher wall, or in this case, 2-tiered walls. So we had about, I believe, an 8-foot on average and another 5-foot on average height wall between the two. When we began the construction of the first wall that is closest to the detox building, they began near the wetland and made their way around the corner up to the back side of the new detox center, where there's an existing transformer and generator pad. They excavated that area out to build the first tier wall, and while we were looking at the grades and where we could tie back in, we did an analysis and could tell that we could raise the grade or the height of that first wall by about 2 more feet, and then slope back to the existing grades just beyond that generator and still tie in to the same area that we were showing to be regraded previously. So it's not that we analyzed it incorrectly to begin with. It's just when sometimes you get in certain field conditions, you look at things a little differently when it gets dug up. And we thought, well, here's an opportunity to remove some hardscape from the project, landscape that, slope a bit more. So in the proposed plans with wetlands, we had put a conservation seed mix all along that area. So it really just eliminated some hardscape. We moved the protective fence down to the top of this wall and just softened that backside of the building so the views outside those new buildings and from the existing down the slope will be a bit nicer. Hopefully that answers that question. To your second question, I'm not quite sure what you mean in terms of reduced storm drainage.
Okay, I think I can answer that, and just tell me if I read it wrong. This is hold please. This is area D, and I'm looking at I'm looking at the document dated May 11th, which is a site plan modification letter to the land use administrator. Just let me.
Oh, okay. So you're referring to the reduction in the number of structures.
Okay, then yes, that's what I'm remembering. Yeah, the removal of wall allows for reduction in utility structures, both sanitary and storm drainage function as previously approved.
Correct. So the flows and the amount of storm drainage is still all the same. It's just that when we had the 2-tiered system, we had to have more structures. So for example, in the sanitary, we had to have 2 structures to drop the grade between the 2 walls and connect the pipes. With the removal of the wall, we can do it with just 1 structure instead of having the 2 drop manhole into another manhole to make that change in grade. Similarly, we had, I believe, 2 area drains that we can now just get away with the 1 area drain and connect the pipes. So the flows are all the same. The calculations did not change. It's just the number of structures.
Is that something that you have to go back to the DEEP for review, or is that a change that you can make within the confines of the original approval?
Typically, something like that wouldn't trigger for us to go back to review because the calculations are still staying the same. So we're still treating and moving the same amount of water waste. It's just the structure itself has been removed.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mike. I just have a follow-up question with regard to your answer to my first question. Can you describe then the how steep that grade is going to be on the uphill side of the increased height of the 1 retaining wall?
Sure. It's for the majority of it's a 3-to-1 slope. There is a section as you get closest to the existing building that we have maybe about 20 linear feet and then goes back maybe 20 feet that would have to get tightened up to a 2-to-1 slope.
Does that require a fence at the top of that slope?
So there's a fence on top of the wall. So if you are at the sidewalk up at the existing office building and tried to walk down that slope, or let's say you tripped and fell down the slope, there is a fence guard on the top of the wall that would keep you from getting over that wall.
All right, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Hey, Mike?
Yes.
Is the, now that side of that floor is now space, office space, you had to put the door to come out. So you've got an elevated walkway. Was the change to that area driven by that renovation on the inside, or was it not?
Yes.
And can you explain the elevated wall and actually how elevated walkway and how that looks? And do you have a design of, or some way to show us what that looks like?
Sure, and I think Marco can also jump in here. I'll briefly describe the site side of things. I won't jump in as an architect because I am not one. But as it exits the building, that there's going to be a bridge structure that crosses over the top of that proposed lower wall that is already constructed in this area. There'll be basically a landing on a elevated structure, so almost like a deck out of the back of your house. And then that will turn 90 degrees and head towards the existing office building. That turn and walkway will be very similar to the boardwalk section that crosses over the wetland at the back of the detox. Yep, that Jason is pointing to there, which is set on piles and is a wood structure. So it'll basically be a small elevated walkway that you'll make your way down and then up towards the existing office building. It'll transition to a concrete sidewalk when we can meet grade. But the walkway itself is elevated, about 2 feet above the grades below it, which allows us to grade that slope and not disturb extra land in this area. So we couldn't we could, but it would have added more grading and more hardscape to do an actual concrete walk for this whole section. So this elevated walkways allows us to bridge over the grades below us, still meet code with under 5% slope, and then connect to that concrete sidewalk up to the existing office building. I don't know, Marco, you want to talk about the building itself?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Marco Costantini with Silva Petroselli Architects. Mike described the exterior of the bridge and the walk fairly well. But I think, Donna, your question was, why is it needed? Did I understand you correctly? So when we had that stair at the end of the detox center at the second floor, that was the exit from the second floor going down and out. So once that stair was removed and the second floor extended out all the way to the gable end, without a stair, that became a dead end corridor without an exit. So by code, we had to provide a direct exit to the exterior, and that's where the bridge came back, because obviously we were 1 story above grade, and the only way to get out would be with an elevated bridge, and that's the reason for that bridge as a result of those changes. Yes.
So that essentially becomes handicapped accessible at grade egress.
It is. It's flat. It's completely level and flat as it comes out of the building at the second floor. It continues flat, and then once it turns 90 degrees, it will slope at 1/20 max to the walkway. So technically, it's not even a ramp. It's just a walk, elevated walk.
Marco, can you tell me, I think I'm understanding that in the previous plan, there was an egress stair coming off of that same location, and now it's simply turned into a landing and a ramp?
So yeah, there was an internal stair which ended before the end of the gable end, because don't forget the second floor was a little shorter. So yeah, if you go back to the plan, there we go. So, can you go to the second floor? That's it. So right there. So there's the big rectangle at the end. That's the amount of space that was added. The other yellow square, that's where the stair was. So that was the exit stair, and the corridor ended at that stair.
Okay,
So
so there was no stair coming off of the end of the building where the ramp is now. This was an internal stair.
It was internal, yes. It was all within the footprint, yes. So
Yeah.
once we removed that stair and we elongated the second floor, we had to get out. And once you get out, you're above grade. Obviously, you need an elevated exit. So we did it all without a stair. We consider another stair at the end, but that would have had a square footage as an internal space, so we rule that out.
Okay, thank you. So listen, because we're sharing the screen and we're looking at each other somewhat, depending on our settings, I can't see everybody, so I can't see who wants to speak. So I would suggest that if you would like to speak, or you have a comment, either someone on the commission or someone from the public, to use the chat function at the bottom of the screen. Donna, if you would open up your chat and listen for people who want to make comments, and then maybe moderate that. Is that a reasonable suggestion? You're on mute, Donna.
Yeah, no, when you hit the space bar to take yourself off of speaking, off of mute, and you have the chat open, you just get spaces in the chat section. So yeah, that's fine.
Sorry, no, I'm on mute. So I would open the floor up to people who want to speak. Otherwise, I'll just keep asking my questions. And in the meantime, I will. Let's see. Is there any way, Jason or Marco, that you can show me what the roof line at the detox wing used to look like?
I don't have that on my laptop. Do you have an old drawing, Jason, of the previous submission?
I can find it. But Mr. Chairman, generally to give you a sense, basically, this is what I'm circling here is the view from the woods. Essentially, these two windows, so basically everything to the right of my arrow would have been, it would have been the same roof, but at a lower elevation. So it would have been the same roofing, the same material, the same everything, just at a lower roof line.
So it's simply a break in that roof elevation, right? So you're simply it went from a 2-story elevation here. You went from a 1-story elevation here with a low roof and then a high roof. Now you've got the whole high roof.
Absolutely correct. And it, like I said, it looked exactly the same. It was the same, I believe, is this standing seam? I'm not sure. But it was and we're using the same treatment all the way through now. So it runs from front to back.
Yeah, and to the comment that I would make there is that the massing is different. So it's whether it looks nice, it's which it on in the drawing it looks really nice. But the massing is a little bit different. You've got one continuous roof line as opposed to a roof line that's somewhat broken up. But that's somewhat of a throwaway comment. Can you, Jason or Marco, explain to me what the roof structure looks like over that below grade stair at the main entry, or at I'll call it the west side or the front entrance?
Yeah, Jason, I think I sent you that drawing yesterday. If you can pull that. It's got the elevations.
The elevation over this stair here?
Yeah.
I don't believe I saw that, Marco. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can.
It would have been the last email with the 3 files that I sent yesterday.
Okay. Sorry, folks. I don't
That's it.
see. Oh, wait. I may have it. Of course, I may not. Marco,
Yeah, I
if you don't mind, could you tell me the page number?
It would be a 300 something, 2 sheets, A301 or 302. There's 300 series. They're the
All right.
elevations. It would have been the last batch I sent yesterday. It's
Okay.
probably the last 3 drawings.
Let me try this again. Sorry, folks. We're doing this on the fly here.
There we go.
Marco?
Yes, so that's it. Yeah, so if you look, I can't point to it, but if you look at the very first drawing, that's as you're looking dead on the building from the parking lot. To the left side of it, you see a little porch with a cloud around it. That's what you would see. And then if you go down to the last drawing on the bottom, you see from the side, from the left side looking at, and you see there are 4 posts with a shed roof and there's a railing. So that's covering that underground stairwell that comes up from the basement. So it didn't change windows, it didn't change anything. We just added the shed roof and the columns and the railing.
And Marco, to be clear, that roofing material is the same as the rest of the structure?
Yes, it would match. It would match the roof above. Yes. So that's the impact of it.
Okay, so Donna, anybody, have you gotten any requests for people to speak yet? Okay, so then I'm gonna ask another question, and then I think I'll be through. The dining hall. So what caused the what was the impetus behind the decision to move the coolers outside? And what are those coolers accessible at all from the inside, or will you be walking outside in order to get into those coolers?
Yeah, so I can speak to this to some degree. There's access, and guys, please correct me if I'm wrong. The primary impetus was to permit both external access and external serviceability. So now deliveries can be taken without the delivery folks having to come into the structure. They can deliver directly to the walk-ins. And of course, both of those are accessible from the inside as well. Is that correct, guys?
Yes, that's correct, Jason.
I don't know if that answers your question.
It does somewhat. The only question is, and I know, Paul, you spoke earlier about what that allows you to do inside the dining hall. So I guess the question is, partly, were you able to add program to the dining hall by moving the coolers outside?
No, I mean, could that space be utilized for programming? Yeah, it could, and that's definitely a possibility. That wasn't the original intent. Back to some of our previous discussions, though, as they relate to our desire to create additional group and therapy rooms in the new buildings. This does give us some flexibility to have more frequent groups with smaller groups and a fewer number of people. So that is a distinct possibility here, yes. But again, we can't have more guests on campus. It's just, we would just have smaller groups.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, I have one other thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The couple of new offices near that new exterior stair on the first floor, was that originally a covered porch? We didn't talk about that as an increase in footprint. So we were just enclosing that space. Is that accurate?
That's correct. That was, if you recall, if you were looking directly at that structure from the parking lot, the second floor protruded over that space that we're proposing to change to 2 offices. So the footprint was there. It was just open. So there would have been, I'll call them posts, Paul, and
Correct, yeah.
have a more technical terminology for it, but yeah, that's what it was. So it doesn't change the footprint, but indeed it is enclosed.
So you get more usable square footage. Okay, that's I have asked the questions that I want to ask.
I have a question.
Yes.
Going back to the roof lines, are they, you kept saying, well, I guess my question is, are they still within regulation, the roof lines?
Yes, I mean, it follows the, you know, 3/4 of the building or 2/3 of the building had a higher roof line because it had a second story. This just follows along with that. So this isn't, and guys, again, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this doesn't impact what's permissible in the zoning regs and either the, any of the standards.
Okay, because you kept saying, but you won't be able to see it, which made me think.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, A, it fits, the two facts. A, it fits with the current zoning standards. And fact B, you can't see it. They're not dependent upon one another. They both exist independently.
Got it. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you.
So I have 2 questions or comments. I know you're fitting you have enough parking spaces to what we require, but it does sound like you guys have more than occasional times when you have more people coming to High Watch and parking than you have parking spaces, and people end up on the road. So is the removal of those parking spaces necessary? But the other part of that was I'm just recalling or remembering when the fire department was looking at everything in the different parking spaces. I just wanted to make sure that removal of those parking spaces doesn't impact the fire department's ability to make rescue and to fight a fire and park their ladder truck. I just can't remember where those things were an issue, and I wanted to make sure the removal of those 3 or 4 spots isn't going to impact the volunteer fire department.
Sure. So your first question about the need for those spaces, because there are events where we have more cars on campus than we have spaces. And I mean, I'll be honest, I've heard this for, how long have we been at this? A few years. And I heard it in the letter tonight. Everybody refers to, our annual picnic, which we may or may not be able to have this year. It happens once a year. So yeah, people park on the road. We do our best to keep them off the road. They park in space across the street. It's all hands on deck to try and make that happen, but that is very, very few and far between. The other question, which is a very important one, is does this impact turning radii and things of that sort for the fire department? No, those roads that were in existence remain in existence. So none of that gets changed in any way, shape, or form. So if in the original plans, a fire truck could make a turn, none of that has been changed. That roadway still exists as it was before.
Eric, are you there still?
Hi, yep, I am here, thanks.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Eric Epstein. I also have a fire department question. I would just ask the commission that, before you approve this, that the plans do get to the fire department and get reviewed, because eliminating a staircase, although meets code, now the runs are going to be much longer inside for either a rescue or a fire situation. It could impact us. Thank you.
So I guess I can address that. The drawings have already been, the architectural drawings and the code plans have been submitted to the building department and the fire marshal. So they're totally aware of the changes we're making. They haven't given us a formal approval, obviously, because we haven't been approved by zoning yet, so they can't approve anything yet. But they're totally aware. Yeah.
I understand that, and my statement was that even though it meets code, it may change our operational tactics that the fire department should be aware about before anything gets approved. Whether it's longer hoses on the dead lays or things like that. Again, I'm certain it meets code, but the operational situation, if there is a fire at this facility, could change.
Eric, we can supply you with a full set of the drawings. You guys, the fire department always has an open invitation to come up and see whatever you want to see. So if there's anything you need to change operationally, we just want to be a part of that. We're happy to do whatever we need.
Great, and I appreciate that. I'm no longer an officer, but I don't know that the department's aware that this was going on. So that's, I just wanted to make you guys aware.
Yeah.
Somebody should be notified.
Yeah, Eric, we'll be sure to let the fire department know and give them a chance to review the changes
Great.
that are proposed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question. I know you're removing some of those parking spaces. You're going to be removing 13. Are any of those spaces handicap spots? And if they are, where are you putting them elsewhere?
I'm going to defer the answer. I believe the answer to that question is yes, and I'm going to defer that to probably you, Mike.
Yep. Again, for the record, Mike Doherty. Donna, I believe it's actually 12 spaces we're removing.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. And so there are handicap spaces that within those being removed, but there are also 2 of those. So I think there's 3 total within that count that were accessible parking spaces. We are relocating 2 of those over to the rear of Bantle Hall, just outside the new addition to the dining room. And that was based on one of the code comments that we received. And we think that was an improvement in the layout of the accessible spaces.
Okay.
So in total, I do believe we lose 1 accessible parking space in the site, but we had 2 extra above what was required by code in the original plan. So now we have 1 above what is required by code.
Okay, and Stan was the one that you talked to, Stan and Joe, about that? Because I know they're the ones that regulate the handicap spots, so I'm asking for them.
I didn't speak to anyone personally. We got a letter that was through the town's code consultant, I believe.
Oh, okay, yep. Yep, thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
Okay, so this is a public hearing, and now is the opportunity for members of the public to ask questions and have their voices heard and get answers to issues that they might have. So I would invite again the members of the public who want to speak to let Donna know that they would like to, and then I would also run around the room with the members of the commission too, to see if anybody else has any questions that they would like answered or concerns that they would like to bring up.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
quarantine rooms, we approved the temporary trailers as quarantine areas. And the quarantine rooms that they're adding seem a little more than temporary.
So you're talking about the 2 additional rooms in our detox wing?
Yes.
Oh, those are anything but temporary. Those are permanent structures. We're the and they're here to stay. Obviously, nobody more than us wants those temporary trailers off the site. And those will obviously come off consistent with the governor's executive order and the certificate of need we've been granted by the Department of Public Health. But yeah, I mean, those 2 rooms are their rooms. They're there.
So you're adding 2 more rooms.
That is correct. But again, as I mentioned before, and I think it's important to reiterate, those are rooms for isolation. Those are not rooms to add to guests. So our capacity and ability to treat 90 guests does not change. Those are simply rooms that permit us to move individuals who will just take the flu because it's easy. If somebody has the flu, we don't want them in a shared room with somebody else. We want them isolated. We do it right now, but it's not ideal. This gives us an opportunity. I mean, heck, we're building a new building. This gives us an opportunity to do it right.
Thank you.
Got it.
So what is the pleasure of the commission? I know that we need we would like, we've been requested and have agreed to reach out to the fire department for their input. When we do that, I think that we should ask that they take a look at the reduced road width back behind Bantle Hall, back behind the dining hall, with the addition of those exterior coolers. I believe I read that the roadway gets slightly narrowed. So I just want to make sure that they're okay with the fire access if they're in fact going to be using that as the loop. So we definitely want to get some more information from our consultants. That's the fire department being one of them. So I would suspect that we'll leave the public hearing open. But if we do, I would like to give the applicant some reasonable direction or some specific direction as to what information we would like from them for our next meeting. I'm not saying that we have to leave the public hearing open. I'm simply saying that let's get some things on the table now. I think now is our opportunity. So if I don't hear too many comments from the commission, then that can steer our discussion.
I have one question for the commission, and that is, do you think it's necessary to send these changes to Anchor Engineering? I did not do that. I wanted to see what the commission was thinking about whether or not they should take a look at this. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is we did receive approval from Torrington Area Health for the first modification to the dining hall. But now that there's another modification to the dining hall, that is a new application. So now it needs to go through the process again. And we're still waiting to hear back from Antonella Daha at the DEP because these changes were referred to her as well. I've not heard anything from her other than the last thing Kathy had heard. Antonella Daha still had not received anything, and that was probably, I'm going to say 10 days ago. I don't know if that's changed or not. But those would be the other consultants that we would be tapping into for advice and approval before the commission could approve the modifications if they so desire to approve them.
So let me clarify that a little bit, Donna. You said that the new drawings that were submitted yesterday, that's a new application, or that becomes new information for this application?
It becomes an updated, it's really, it's not anything that we need to be involved with, because the changes have been internal, and it's just a vestibule on the outside, for ease of getting in and out of the cooler. But Kathy is requiring that because there's a change to the floor plan. The office has gone downstairs. There's new dining space. I know Stan and Joe were looking at the set of plans that Paul had sent to me. I had printed out a set, and they were looking at that today as well. But just for Kathy's purposes, she was considering that to be another application for her review.
But for us, it's simply an updated set of documents for us to review as part of this application.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so there's a question then on the table for the commission members. The engineers have said, Mike Doherty has said that this would not trigger a resubmission. The flows are the same. The calculations really haven't changed. I'm not sure that it would be a bad idea for us to send this to Anchor Engineering. I'm not sure. I could be I'm on the fence somewhat. I could go either way. But does the commission think that it's worth sending it off to? If we're going to keep the public hearing open, because I think we need to, based on what we need to hear from the Department of Health and based on what we want to hear from the fire department, should we do that as well and ask Anchor to look at it right away so that we can get it over to the engineers so they can make any modifications that are requested so that we can have all that stuff in a month?
I think we're going to keep the hearing open. It doesn't hurt for us to have Anchor look at it.
I guess I have a question about whether we really need to keep the hearing open. Do we have the option, if the commissioners are of a mind to approve the application subject to confirmation by the fire department that they're still fine with all the access? We've done that. Haven't we done that in approving other applications?
Certainly we've done it. Fire department. I don't think that we've done that with regard to engineering comments. I'm not sure that we could or that we should with regard to engineering comments, only because if the engineers come back and require some changes that we may want to review, that we wouldn't be able to review those or have any further conversation with our engineers as to why and whether they're right or Mylone and McBroom are right. I would suggest that we not close the public hearing if we're waiting for information from Torrington Area Health and the engineers. Although we have closed the public hearings and accepted post-dated approval from the Department of Health.
I think what'll happen is if you close the public hearing and Anchor and send the application or the site plans, the changes to Anchor, and Anchor says, I think this needs to be changed and that needs to be changed, then we don't have the avenue. We're not open to accept any other information at that point in time. So leaving it open kind of makes it a little bit cleaner. We can then accept anything that we need to take in as a result of any kind of review.
Jason, what is that? What's your time frame?
Well, you're not going to be shocked to hear what I would love to see you folks do. I understand you obviously need to get comment. You want comment from the fire department. You want to send it out to Anchor. In my perfect world, you would approve it subject to the comments from the fire department and Anchor, and obviously subject to approval by the Torrington Area Health District. That would make me a happy guy, but I'm not a commissioner.
If something if the fire department comes back to us with an issue, even a minor issue, or and the engineering comes back with an issue or a minor issue, tell me if I'm wrong, but if we close it, there's nothing that we can really do except to deny the application, and that seems like a waste of time when maybe we would just need to ask for some modification. It just I think closing the public hearing if we're waiting for information is premature.
I agree with you, Adam. I think the public hearing should be held, kept open. And I also think that Anchor Engineering should be reviewing all this. I have to say, I get a little dizzy reading this and trying to decipher all these changes. And I don't think there's anything wrong with slowing it down a month.
I generally, like I said, I'm on the fence with keeping the public hearing open or closing it. I would say that the commission would be doing itself a disservice if we tried to close the public hearing and then have a discussion and then make a decision whether to approve or deny the application at this meeting. I think at the very least, we need to get the information and discuss it. If we close the public hearing, it would only, we could still add conditions to the approval or denial at the next meeting, but it would not give the applicant the opportunity to answer any of those questions that that the consultants brought up. So I think all in, I think I'm generally agreeing that there's no sense in closing the public hearing if we're not going to vote tonight, which I don't think that we should do.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question. Is it possible that you would hold the public hearing open, obviously to absorb the comments that come in from the fire department and Anchor, et cetera, and then deliberate and vote at the end of that public hearing next month? Is that something that's feasible?
It's yes, Jason. That's something that's absolutely possible. You know, I'm reluctant to speak for the balance of the commission, but if we get the information, it doesn't sound like there's a lot of information that we are looking for. Doesn't sound like the members of the commission have too many other questions other than hearing from our consultants. If we hear from the consultants and you and the balance of the applicant team can respond to those comments from the consultants, I don't think there's any reason that we could not deliberate and vote at our July meeting. Donna, am I speaking out of turn? Does that make sense?
I mean, it's definitely a possibility, but it's not something that I can require. I mean, it's at the commission's determination. It's not mine. Is it possible? Absolutely. I mean, if Anchor comes back and says, you know, it looks okay, basically, but you have to remember, Anchor's not only going to look at the site, they're going to look at everything else that's been done and compare it to the current regulations. So they do an all-inclusive review. And they might come back with something that is just tied into something that's happening on the inside that I'm just not aware of. So that's why I think, for all intents and purposes, it's better to keep the public hearing open to make sure that we can accept whatever we need to accept. And then it would be at the commission's discretion at the July meeting to decide how they want to act on any information that we get from any of the consultants. That would not be, it is possible, but up to the commission and not up to me.
So Jason, no promises?
I heard that loud and clear, yes.
Annie?
Didn't it say in the letter from the Palmers that concrete is already being poured and construction is ongoing? What does this do? I mean, do they have to stop construction?
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is, I'm sorry, Donna, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jason. That's fine.
Yeah, so as you recall from the last meeting, we discussed some changes that we made on the fly as it pertained to pouring the foundation. We've been very careful not to do any work outside of what had already been approved, and that hasn't happened since that original instance. But I mean, let's be honest, as we wait to, as the builders and everybody waits to hear what the commission's going to do, then certainly it causes us to sort of stop a lot of different things. And Mr. Chairman, you can't do the next thing without doing the first thing. So it certainly does, grind things, not to a halt, but it certainly slows things down. I'd be lying if I said otherwise.
Yeah. So Anne, that below grade stair at the front entrance that has been installed. That's poured. The concrete is placed. If the commission decides that these changes or some of these changes are inappropriate, then the work that the High Watch has done is at their risk. They're not allowed to build. They won't get a certificate of occupancy from the building department if they've built something that has not been approved, and the building department can't approve it unless we've approved it. So, the work that they do, if they go forward, I'm not suggesting that they will, but if they go forward with work that's not approved, has not been approved by us, then they do it at their own risk. So we have the ability to either approve or deny what's the changes that they're requesting, whether they've done the work or not. Does that answer your question a little bit more? Okay. Any other questions or any other comments? I know so right now we're gonna go back to the fire department to make sure that the emergency services work, both with regard to the removed parking and the new coolers at the dining hall. We've decided, I believe, that we're going to send the plans to Anchor and have them take a look at the review. Donna has said that the DEEP is in fact looking at it, and the Torrington Area Health is looking at the changes, the most recent changes that have been made past what we've looked at some of them tonight, but those are the four agencies that we are looking for input from. Is there anything else that we'd like the applicant to do so they can be prepared for next month? Okay, so then if there's no other comments for tonight, then I would look for a motion to continue the public hearing until our next regularly scheduled meeting, which is in July.
I'll make that motion that we continue the meeting until the July meeting.
I second the motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Then I'll call the vote. There doesn't seem to be, so I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Jason, thank you to you and your team for walking us through those changes here. To Jason, I thought your presentation was, it at least outlined for me more clearly what changes you're proposing.
Thank you. It's weird doing this in this format, but I hope it was easy to follow.
It was well thought out. Okay, so then, thank you all. We'll see you in a month.
You got it.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, so I am looking back to my agenda. My computer seems to have locked up, but we'll just give it a minute. Still, Donna, what's next on the agenda?
So what we've got next is the possible extension to the temporary modification to application number 11-16C, 45 North Main Street, map 19, block 15, lot 14, to allow the use of the previously operated walk-up window as a temporary drive-through window. And what we had said was we would go ahead and extend it out to June 20th. What's happening now is restaurants will be able to open up for indoor serving effective June 17th. I did not have an opportunity. I probably should have called Sharon to see if she plans on opening and if she's going to want to give up the use of that drive-through window. I think that she will, mostly because Mr. Garrity, I don't think I've ever seen you at a planning and zoning meeting.
Well, I've been around a long time, so I've been through a few of them.
Holy cow, okay.
And was talking about walk-up windows and drive-up windows, Chris Garrity's favorite.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm not sure what her desire is going to be. When I did talk to her about the walk-up window, she had said that it was not something that she wanted to continue to do because she does sell more when people come in the store. I'll do whatever the commission wants me to do. We can either extend it another month, or we can just keep it, and then I can send a letter to her and ask her what is her plan now that the restaurants will be opening and she can serve inside. Does she still want to continue the use of the window as a walk-up? Only as a walk-up, not as a drive-through anymore.
Well, she's got, she has our approval to operate that as a walk-up window.
That's right.
So we don't need to know what she's going to do with regard to the walk-up.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So my thing is, do we want to just let this temporary modification to allow a drive-through expire on the 20th, since they open up on the 17th? And just let her know that as of the 17th, as of the evening of the 20th, she needs to put those barricades back up, the drive-through stops, and now she is interior walk-up, and either interior or
Well, she hasn't come, she knew that it was going to expire on the 20th, and she didn't come in to have it extended because maybe she doesn't intend on extending it. But that's on her, not on us, correct?
Well, she didn't come the last time either. So, I'll handle it.
But when we extended it to June 20, we said, it would be over if restaurants were allowed to open. They're now allowed to open.
On the 17th.
Yeah, so we should not extend her use of that drive-up window.
Okay, so then we'll send her a modification letter telling her that because restaurants will now be able to serve interior, that the extension to the 20th has now been changed to the 17th. And that as of the morning of the 18th, the drive-through window needs to be blocked. Or the 16th.
I don't know if you leave it in place until the 20th. I don't think we have to cut it off earlier, but
that's fine.
20th, it's over.
All right, I'll send her a letter at that point and tell her that that as of the 20th, the drive-through window goes away, and she can continue with the walk-up.
I agree with Mark. I think that's the right way to do it.
Chris?
Mr. Chairman, if it please the commission, has the commission done any study as to the effectiveness of a drive-up window or the impact on zoning with respect to a drive-up window? It is my recollection that this regulation was put in primarily to dissuade fast food and McDonald type drive-throughs. And my question is not so much with the individual who owns a coffee shop, but more of a long-term question is this an inappropriate use in the town of Kent?
Well, we discussed this somewhat at length at our last meeting, and without putting words in the commission's mouth, it was generally agreed that drive-up windows, this particular drive-up window was appropriate at this particular time because it was somewhat designed as a drive-up window. We didn't have any discussions as to whether we should allow drive-up windows in the future for other uses that were maybe designed in. At this point, I'm not sure that we're prepared to have that discussion. We could certainly put it on the table if that was the pleasure of the commission.
Yeah, my question is less to having the discussion whether you have them in or have them out. I guess the question really is effectiveness of it. There's a concern clearly with parking, on planning and zoning's side, and I don't know if this alleviates parking. This just creates more congestion. I know that the position, at least I'd heard at one point from zoning, was that when I asked the question of a drive up, it was, well, we're concerned with pedestrians more than we're concerned with parking. So I just don't know if a study or any real drill down on the impact of how this is. It's a great opportunity to look to see whether or not something in zoning as a regulation is effective or not. And while my instincts are to say to let a drive up window, I really don't care. What I'm looking at it, this is it seems to me a real opportunity for zoning to see something in live form during a time where there was a crisis, and you reacted, I think, pretty positively, and you're all full well intended to pull it back, but I just don't know if we've learned anything out of this or not.
Well, I certainly haven't commissioned a study as to whether it makes sense to do or not. I haven't commissioned a study as to whether there was more dangerous or less dangerous. No. We could certainly have that discussion if the commission thinks that it's important. We did get we got a request for somewhat of a drive up / walk up window door at a business in town that made absolutely no sense. So anything that we do, I think, is going to have to be on a case by case basis, and it's going to have to be it's going to have to be well thought out and designed. We're going to have to pay very close attention to pedestrian safety. We're going to have to pay very close attention to traffic flow. Parking is absolutely something that the commission is tasked with managing. It's in the regulations. I'm not sure that it's in the regulations, and we're tasked with managing it based on what the regulations say.
Okay, thank you.
I think at one point in time when we were rewriting the regulations, we did have a long conversation about this. And when we sat and talked and thought about the businesses that could possibly take advantage of drive-through windows that were non-financial, at that point in time, there weren't any. And then, they talked about the possibility of the Villager maybe trying to do something. And then, it just, as I recall, was not something that the commission thought was feasible in the center of town.
I agree with you, Donna. We had a discussion at length. I remember using Dunkin' Donuts over and over again as a type of drive-through. I would like to suggest that if we want to put this on the agenda for the future discussion, but I don't know what we're gaining right now by deliberating it without facts or going back and look at what we discussed in the past. Obviously, it is not a routine commercial process that we use regularly in the town of Kent. So There must be a reason for that.
Just my final note is all I am commenting on is not whether you get and do drive-throughs or not. Is it's anecdotal when somebody from a commission says, well, I think that a drive-up window is good, or I think a drive-up window is bad. There's an opportunity right now where a drive-up window is active. And in that, I would hope the commission would gain knowledge from that, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, rather than having an opinion that I like it or I don't like it. That's all my comment was about.
Okay, noted.
Thank you.
So it seems that the pleasure of the commission at this stage is to not extend, that our agreement was with the drive-up window, that it's an emergency somewhat provision, that the drive-up window was in place. It had been designed as a drive-up window, and during the time that we were social distancing, and while restaurants were closed, that we would allow them to utilize their drive-up window. It appears that the restaurants will be allowed to start serving inside on the 17th. So it doesn't appear that we need to extend, or it's been suggested that we not extend this temporary permission. Is there any question that something will change with the executive order? That something will change and the 17th will move to sometime after the 17th? And do we need to be concerned with that?
I don't think that if the executive order, the reopening order, there is a possibility that it could change after this new executive order goes in place. I mean, that seems to be typically how they're handling everything. Stuff is, things are being tested. If the test doesn't go well, then they readjust and they change. I don't know if you remember, but originally the restaurants weren't supposed to reopen until the 20th. But they did go ahead and move it up because the numbers were going down, the hospitalizations were going down, the number of tests were going up. So they did, the governor decided to change the executive order and move everything up to the 17th. But if they find out in the middle of July that it's not working, he might put it back in again, where the restaurants will go back to exterior only. So that at this point in time, everything is kind of like a test case scenario. So yes, there is a possibility that will change. Do I think it will change before the 17th? I do not.
But does that change our opinion, or not our opinion, but our decision to not extend? And is there any reason to put in a caveat that says that we will not extend it past the 20th as long as the executive order to reopen indoor seating holds at the 17th? So I'm really asking you, Mark, what's your opinion?
I think if the governor changes his order, she can come back in and request permission again, and we'll give it to her.
Okay, that's fine. So
so if the governor changes it before the end of the month, or even days after the 17th, she would essentially not be able to have that drive up until we have another meeting, which could be a few weeks. We could allow Donna to make that decision should that scenario come around.
I don't think that's right. I think didn't Matt and Donna grant her the right to use that drive-up window, and then we ratified it at a later meeting. We don't have to wait for a meeting for that to happen.
But when this whole thing started, what I did was back and asked him if he thought it would be okay for me to go ahead and give her permission to use the drive-through window. And so the two of us did it together, and then we came to the commission and said, this is what we did and now we're gonna kind of monitor it as it went along, because we didn't know when the commission was going to be meeting again. And I don't see any reason why we can't handle it the same way.
I think that's what Mark is suggesting. I think that for right now, the commission is saying we will not extend it. We won't extend this permission. If something happens and you and I, Donna, need to talk and let's say the executive order doesn't allow it to open until the 25th or the 17th of the following month, then you and I can make that decision on the fly. It sounds like the commission is on board with that. And then we can just, we can report back at the next regularly scheduled meeting. So do we need...
Can I say one thing?
Of course, Ann.
Right now, it's operating both as a walk-up and a drive-through. I think it's an extremely dangerous situation because you have cars and people in the same line.
I agree that sounds like not what we had envisioned. So it's like, yes, we should be clear with her, Donna, that she should not have people walking up. So Don, I think we'll need a motion to not extend this permission. And if anything changes with extenuating circumstances, that Donna and I will speak and decide and report back at the next regularly scheduled meeting. Anyone? Bueller?
Mr. Dewitt, I guess.
I make that motion.
I move that we not extend her ability to use the drive-up window when it expires on the 20th.
Great. Adam? Okay. So any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so agenda item number 6B4. This is a request for approval of State of Connecticut Department of Consumer Protection Liquor Control Division application for adding live entertainment. Kent Pizza Garden, 17 Railroad Street, map 19, block 42, lot 17.
Under the current regulations, under section 4131.1, I do have the ability to approve an accessory use customarily incidental and directly located to the operation of the permitted principal use. So for all intents and purposes, you could say that live entertainment is something that is accessory to the principal use of a restaurant. But we've never had an application for it within the Village Center Commercial District. So, and I believe that this entertainment would also be outdoor. And I know that Alyssa at the Fife has indoor, Kingsley has indoor, but this, I believe, is going to be both indoor and outdoor, although the license itself doesn't differentiate between the two. They are looking just for acoustics, not amplified. And I wanted to kind of have a dialogue with the commission to try to get an idea from the commission how they feel about this. You know, like I said, this is the first time we've ever had it. I can honestly tell you that a couple of weeks ago, it sounded like there was a jam session going on in the middle of town, and I heard it on the deck of my condo. So, you know, I guess my concern is, how is something like this going to be regulated that it's strictly acoustic and not amplified? You know, it was a concern of mine, because like I said, we've never had anyone ask for this before.
Donna, what section of the regulations were you pointing to?
4131.1.
I guess I have a lot of concerns about, several concerns about it. You know, there's no restriction on the hours in which this stuff can be, music can be played. They can be doing it at 1 a.m. in the morning, which I don't think is a good idea. And I'm concerned now that you tell me that it's outside. Acoustic just means not amplified, but it's not necessarily an acoustic guitar, which isn't that loud. It could be a trumpet. I mean, it can be loud. And yeah, I've got a concern about that.
The local ordinances, the noise ordinances from town, the town or local noise ordinances would govern, I think. And I believe that there's some cutoff, and I think it's 9 o'clock.
I don't know anything about that.
It's certainly not something we would regulate from a zoning standpoint. I looked through the zoning regulations, and I didn't see any regulation that actually permitted it. But I think Donna's right. That permitted by right as an accessory, customarily incidental and directly related. It sounds like live music. It's customarily incidental to a bar, restaurant.
So do you have to get in and say something now? Just say, can I say something? Go ahead. Okay. Yeah, right here. Say, can I say something? Yeah, say that you're going to play it just during restaurant hours.
Now you're muted, Mark. Chuck, sorry. Chuck, you're muted now, and we heard Mary, but now it's Mary Ann, but now we can't.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Hi, guys. How are you? So we just wanted to let you know, we did have an entertainment license. It was my fault. I let it lapse. I just didn't check off the correct box. And we always had the music inside, maybe on Saturday nights. And we only play the music while we're open. Obviously, we're not allowed to be open till 1 o'clock in the morning. So that's not going to be a concern. Also, the reason we have it outside now is because of the COVID. We have to do outside dining. We're taking advantage of the property that we've recently purchased. It's only, you know, in the afternoon for a couple of hours, and the license specifically states that it's acoustic only. It's not allowed to be amplified. If you see, I think Donna has the copy of the license that I dropped off at the town hall in the box. It says specifically acoustic only. So we're not looking to have a big, you know, music festival outside or anything. Just a little bit of entertainment for our outside dining customers.
There's not a house at least
Yeah.
300 feet away from us,
Right.
if not further.
What kind of musicians are you talking about?
They're just one-man bands. We use an entertainment, well, he's not really a band. He just brings a guitar or whatever instrument he plays. It's one person, and the license states, you know, it has different levels of what you are allowed to, and that's all we applied for, or actually reapplied for.
We've had it for 18 years. And just because we didn't check the box, and this is what we're
I
going
let
to.
it lapse.
We let it lapse.
So Mary Ann, is it just a microphone? A guy with a guitar and a microphone?
Right, right. And I mean, and sometimes the guy brings a tambourine too, but you know, it's not, it's not any, there's no band out there. There's not, you know, I mean, I don't really play music myself, so I don't know the name of all the different instruments you might have.
It's folk music.
Yeah, and it's just background music. We don't want it too loud. We don't want to blast our customers out of here either. We want them in here to dine or to have drinks, you know, in the wintertime if we do have it inside, you know, and we really, in the winter, you know, Kent is so slow, it doesn't even benefit us financially to have a band inside. Or a performer, I should say, inside. I'm sorry, we can't hear you, Ann. I can't hear you. Okay,
What would the hours be?
Right now, we have Saturday and Sunday, we have them here from 2 to 4. And I'm sorry, Sunday 2 to 4, and then Saturday we usually do 2 to 6. And we don't have lights outside. It's not like we have it out late at night, you know, to be performing well into the night hours or anything like that. It's just the afternoon right now.
But that's all we're really planning for, is that afternoon. We've been doing it for 2 years.
Right, and we just want to take advantage of the land outside that we have, you know. We're just all trying to make a living, that's all.
I wonder if the commission could consider this with just some restrictions on the hours.
I think it's great.
Mr. Chairman? As an advocate for businesses here in town, you've done plenty of good work to, as a last case of pivoting with respect to drive-up windows and other things. This is a situation where I personally have heard music inside this establishment, as I have in many other restaurants, specifically Kingsley and the Fife and Drum. I don't see any real difference when you're talking internally. There has been music on Kingsley outside as well at times. So as an advocate of fairness, one, and two, making sure that these businesses can thrive, because that is a real concern of mine here in town. While maybe Chuck and Marianne are willing to taper the outside a little bit, I think this is something that Commission certainly should allow going inside and consider really, really diligently as to outside.
I think that to move the question to an objective standard, does the commission believe that live entertainment is an accessory use, customarily incidental, and directly related to the operation of the permitted principal use of a restaurant?
I do. And I've been there, and I've been there when they've had music. And
Matt, this is Alice. I'm not questioning it or one way or the other. I'm just asking for information right now. Talk about the accessory use of the building is one thing. Who actually issues the license for having music?
The state of Connecticut Department of Consumer Protection, the Liquor Control Division.
The liquor control.
Yeah, it's you can get a liquor permit just to sell liquor, or you have the right to ask for different levels of liquor permits.
Okay.
And this one is, you know, to add live entertainment.
Yeah. Okay.
This is a, you know, this is a license that they've had for a very,
I understand. I'm not questioning it. I just
I'm saying it to everybody, to the commission.
Anybody, the villager could have a license, right? They don't sell liquor though, right? So it goes with a liquor license is what I'm understanding. It follows a liquor license.
I understand that they've had this for a long time, but again, now they're moving it outside. Frankly, I have no problem with it, restricting it to the hours that they're suggesting, and that it only be an acoustic guitar with a microphone and an occasional tambourine. All fine. My concern, like I said, was just being a lot louder and a lot later. If they're only going to do it in the hours that they said and in the manner that they've said, I'm fine with it.
So I guess my point is that if it's an accessory use customarily incidental and directly related to the operation of the permitted principal use, then the commission, then it's allowed by right. And this is a decision that they're allowed to do. We don't have the right. We don't have the mandate to put any sort of restrictions on that use. So that's really why I was framing the question. If in fact, like I said, I looked through the regulations and I couldn't find anything that allowed it, but but I missed this, and this very clearly seems to me to be permitted by right. So if it's permitted by right, then the commission doesn't have the mandate to put restrictions on it.
Then we don't have to talk about it anymore.
That's
Correct.
right.
Well, I would like to find out whether or not, as I am the person that's going to be signing this, and it says, I certify that I am familiar with the ordinances and bylaws in Section A, and they do not prohibit the type of entertainment requested in Section A is not prohibited at liquor establishments located in number 6. What I'd like to find out is, can I condition that so that it is strictly for the hours that they're stating and strictly for the purpose under which they want to provide music?
But wouldn't you have to make sure that fit within the local ordinances? You would have to go to the selectmen to find out what the ordinances were.
I just looked at the ordinances and I didn't see anything at all.
There's no noise ordinance?
Noise ordinances are actually, the noise is actually regulated by Torrington Area Health.
I wish they'd get on the motorcycles.
Yeah, that's why there's no enforcement against them.
We have had this discussion about noise. There is no noise ordinance in the town of Kent.
Well, then there you have it.
All right, so then I'm just going to sign it and not condition it and just go by what they're telling us on the record, that they will only have a guitar from the hours of 2 to 6 on Saturday and 2 to 4 on Sunday, and that there will be no amplification. The problem is actually theirs, because if they violate their liquor permit by not following what they have gotten permission to do, they lose their liquor permit. So
Right.
they're the ones that have the most to lose at this point in time.
Right.
The only thing I'd like to bring up is, I don't know, according to my map, block, and lot designation, the address for the property is 17 Railroad Street. So I don't know if that makes a difference for the Liquor Commission or not, but for my purposes, it does.
So I have a question. So if we put those limits on their ability to have music to just those hours, are we going to limit Kinsley Tavern and the Fife and Drum to only have music within those hours? I mean, it just seems completely unfair that we're going to put extra limitations on them.
Adam, the difference is outside versus inside. Inside music doesn't doesn't disturb the neighbors. Outside music has the potential to. That's the whole difference. They could have inside music all day long, no problem, all night long.
So the limitations that you're going to write into this are specifically going to be for outside music, and it's not going to limit them on inside music. There's a question.
That'd be my view.
Daryl, do you have any thoughts?
It's a historic use there. It's not something new. This is only before us because of a lapse. The intensity and the description of what they're proposing doesn't cause any alarms for me. If we're saying that we don't have jurisdiction over it, I think we should be careful of being too specific in this case, because then people can point to it as a lack of control in other circumstances. So, I think we either have to regulate it or just sort of keep our hands off of it. If there's issues, the only one that can do anything about it is the health department.
So if this license was so-called lapsed, I don't know for how long or whatever, it means the license had existed in the past. And in the past, when you had the license, did you come to the town land use office for any sort of permission? Why are you coming for permission now and you never did that in the past?
Hold on. Because now we want to actually have music outside. We recently acquired this parcel of land, and we didn't, so we had no venue to have a performer outside. Now that we do, we'd like to take advantage of it. So that's why we're coming before.
Well, we could have put it on a deck.
So it is a new situation. Okay.
Correct.
The license doesn't say whether it's inside or outside. We never took an advantage of the time. And we did it with our own. I mean, I don't know how, and I'm sorry, Donna, that if you really did hear our music, we don't have it to be that loud. Again, like we say, we don't want to scare our own customers away. We've had it for 18 years and nobody knew anything about it. That's how quiet we were with the license. And it's just the mistake of not checking the box. When you get your liquor license, all the stuff that you're allowed to do. And obviously we forgot to check the box. And this is, it's just a lapse. We had it on our license before.
So I would propose that,
And we did, and I apologize, we did have music before on the deck and there's summertime, we just moved it over a little bit on the grass where he's playing.
Okay. I would suggest that that the Fife and Drum needs to have this this permit for live entertainment to go along with their liquor license, and I suspect that there are several other restaurants in town who have this license, and we're not regulating those other. We're not putting any sort of conditions on those other on those other places of business. I think that if we put restrictions on the Camp Pizza Garden for hours and noise levels, then we're going to have to go and do some research and find out who else has these permits and put the same restrictions on them. So I'm looking towards number one. I'm looking to satisfy our regulations in an objective manner, and I'm looking to apply those regulations evenly across the board. So it seems to me that we've got two choices. We either regulate this and go back and make sure everybody else is regulated the same way, or we don't regulate it and treat it as an accessory use, which is permitted by right.
And if it gets too loud, you guys could always, someone can make a complaint. I don't know what the decibels is in town. I can't imagine you can hear it past the train station.
We can ask them to turn it down.
And we can
Really
always,
becomes that much of an issue.
but we've never had anyone ever complain about the noise that I know of. I mean, they never came to us about it. Sorry.
I think you're right, Matt. It should be considered an accessory use of the bar licenses. We can't keep track of everybody who's going to have music in their establishment. And they're in the commercial zone. So as long as it's not super loud, I think they should be allowed to do it. I don't know why my voice is so loud.
We want to work with the town anyways. I mean, we were doing it on ourselves, patrolling ourselves to make sure it's not loud. Again, we never had a band, and everyone will tell you that. I've never had, it was just single use.
Okay, let's go on. I withdraw my objection. Fine, not regulated.
Okay, then I'm going to sign this and I will leave it, I'll make a copy for my file since I'm not in on Friday. I will leave it taped to the front door. And if Marianne, if you or Chuck, you want to stop by tomorrow and pick it up, that would be fine. And, you know, you can take care of this right away.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I promise it's going to stay just the way it was. You won't even hear us again. We never heard us before. I mean, whatever. Okay. Sorry.
Thank you.
That's
Bye,
it.
Chuck. Bye, Marianne.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks.
Okay, so Don,
You did it. We're still on.
No, you're
Yes.
back.
No, we're still on. You gotta shut it off.
all right, there you go. Good night, you guys. So Donna, you were going to give us with agenda item number 7A an update on the town hall opening procedures and timing.
Hey, Matt, there's a message here from David Becker saying that Gene Speck is trying to speak.
Okay, I don't know which is Gene Speck must be the 601-9141 number. Gene, go ahead.
20 years. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
That's fantastic. It's Jean.
Hi, Jean.
I just wanted to, reiterate that leaning forward for all these businesses is really important. And the one-page application to consumer protection for that license, just in the signature box, it's right there that the land use officer is signing that I can't remember what it says at the second, but they're familiar with the ordinances and it does not prohibit whatever the box has been checked for. So it seems, an obvious, just a simple signing off a one-page application for consumer protection. It just seemed, I don't know if it needed 15 minutes with the commission. It just seems sort of obvious.
Yeah, we are somewhat deliberative.
I completely understand that and appreciate that. Completely understand. But it was 4 days and seems like it was covered in the signature box, that's all. But I completely appreciate you all being very thorough.
Okay, got it. We have not been called fast often, but we try. So Donna, we lost her picture, but we have a picture of the town hall, and you're on mute, Donna. Oh, thank you, Jean. Thank you for those. Thank you for your comments. So it's we're very blessed tonight to have two selectmen. So Donna, you want to talk to us about 7A, the town hall opening procedures and timing?
Well, since Jean is here, she can go ahead and fill you guys in. If she would like to, or David, as part of the emergency management team.
Sure. So we had a department head meeting on Tuesday, talking about all the, the risk benefit of when the right timing is to open and the cost of maintaining the compliance for cleaning to open the town hall. And we went department by department as to how everybody is delivering services right now, and every department is delivering service with the modifications and flexibility that we've all had to sort of build into this world of disruption that we've been living for the last couple of months. And so I made the decision to hold off opening the town hall full opening until September 1st. Every town is doing it a little bit differently, and we talked about in the meeting being able to, if for instance, Donna needed, or anybody in building or land use needed to meet in person with a customer, a member of the public, we're going to have a table out front, as well as make the large meeting room available on a very limited basis, because it if we start letting people into the building, then it brings in just a lot of other factors with bringing the public back in the building, the way the building's designed, the flow, all the compliance that we need. But they would be able to, meet one-on-one or two-on-one, if it was a small team or whatever. And also Donna had said that P&Z had the desire to start meeting in person again, and we would completely accommodate that for you all. And, just complying with the cleaning guidelines that we would need to step up when you're having your meetings. But everybody in the building is, sort of really stepping outside the box to make sure that the services are delivered, and a lot of innovation is happening. And I think it's, they're taking a really, really difficult time and trying to, make some opportunities happen for town government. I appreciate everybody's, really, really hard work in the last 3-4 months as everything's, sort of flexed and bobbed. So that's sort of the overall view of the next couple of months. August is traditionally quiet in the town hall, and we've made some modifications and accommodations. We've got a couple of drop boxes out front that seems to be working really well for Donna, and doing some other things with dog licensing and transfer station permits that everybody's really just stepped up to, and the public seems to, everything, the feedback that we've been getting has been grateful and appreciative of the, changes that we've been making on the fly. Those are the high points.
Okay, that sounds good. So
and if things change, if something changes, and we have big changes coming down from the governor, we are on a weekly call with him. If things start to change, we're going to absolutely be flexible to that, because we want to get open and back to normal, I'm air quoting, but you can't see me, business as soon as possible. But we have to just protect the public and protect the employees. But if things flex, we will flex with them.
And to add to that, we're monitoring. Obviously, everyone's a little bit concerned about a second wave, and there's restrictions with certain age populations and vulnerability. So we're really doing everything that we can to, from particularly out of my department, we're trying to facilitate and plan for those next steps. So, anything that, and Donna's been a part of our previously 3 times a week meetings, moving to once a week. We're in a sort of a reopening stage, trying to facilitate for the businesses. So that's why, some of these items are really important to make sure that, commerce is moving, and we're doing town halls moving and everything, even if we're in a virtual sort of setup. So, but as Jean said, we've been discussing at length those few exceptions, but the ones that really count, we'll certainly accommodate where needed to make sure that, commissions such as yours and departments like Donna's and others that have pressing business can still do that. Even if we're officially closed, there's still, some ways to make that happen on a one-off basis.
Thanks, David. Matt, that was, that's David Becker, our
Yeah, sorry,
emergency
David Becker,
director, and I know Eric, the deputy, Eric Epstein, who you all know, is
Eric,
also on the call.
I see that, Eric. Okay, great. David, nice to meet you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for
Great to meet you.
all that you do. So from a one-off standpoint, it sounds as if we should still plan. I know we had been hoping to have our meetings starting up at the town hall, but it sounds as if we should at least assume that we're going to have our meetings virtually in July, right? We should.
No, if you all want to come and meet at the town hall, we can accommodate that.
So,
okay.
I know that Donna had said that you all are very interested in, getting back to meeting face to face. So we would accommodate that.
It's certainly
in the large meeting room.
It's we certainly don't want to do anything that's unsafe, but it's more efficient to meet face to face. So why don't we take a poll? We'll talk to the commission tonight and see what they think, and we'll have Donna circle back with you.
I've been in one.
Great.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. Thank you, Gene.
They were
Sure.
good people. They were honest people.
So we said agenda item number 8A, subdivision regulations subcommittee. We spoke about that earlier. There's no reason to speak any more about that now. Agenda item number 9A was the administrative permits. I don't have any comments. Does anybody else have any thoughts on the permits that were issued and closed? Okay, then let's go to agenda item number 10. And this is on here because of the conversation, because we want to discuss whether we would like as a commission to have the attorneys come and speak with us about our plans for, or about their plans for defending us against this litigation. And I know that that several of us had said that we thought it was a good idea. I wanted to open up to the balance of the commission and take a vote, make a motion, take a vote, so that Donna can plan it for our next month, and we can schedule an executive session to hear from our attorneys. So somebody want to make a motion that we ask Donna to invite the attorneys to an executive session next month?
I make a motion that we ask Donna to invite our attorneys to a meeting next month.
I second the motion.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Just oh, I'm not muted. Okay, that's weird.
Yeah, we see the town hall again now.
Yeah, my video for some reason my video is not starting.
Okay. So we're not only talking about having Mike Ziska come, he's our land use attorney, but he's not representing us in this case, and also having the attorneys who are representing us in this case to come and talk to us about where they are, where they think we're going to go, and what the strategy is.
Okay. Do you want this as an executive session prior to the meeting in July, or do you want me to leave it open and let the attorneys decide when they would be available to come or to participate?
It would certainly be more convenient for me to do it that same night.
All right, so I will see if they are available on July 9th. And should we shoot for like 6 o'clock? Do you think an hour is long enough?
I don't think it'll take an hour, but leave us. I'd rather not be rushing out from one meeting to another, and I think a half hour would not be enough time.
So an hour, you think an hour is enough?
Yes, absolutely. I think that an hour is more than enough, and hopefully what will happen is we'll talk to them for a half an hour, and then we'll get off the phone and have a little dinner, and then come back and meet at 7.
Okay.
To the meeting. Is any more discussion? Anybody have anything else that they'd like to add?
If they are not available, then I will send out a doodle poll and find out what's a good next available date. Everybody's okay with that? If for some reason they can't do the 9th?
Sure.
Donna, are the attorneys for the federal case, are they fully up to speed? Have they reviewed all the testimony? Will they be able to answer our questions, or are they just coming up to speed with all the details that we might question them about?
No, they are very up to speed.
Great.
Okay, so there being no more discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thanks for being patient with that, you all. I know that several of you had suggested that we do it tonight. So thanks for bearing with me. Okay, so then agenda item number 11, this is a quick announcement from Donna, and then we will adjourn.
Okay. We had received an FOI request, which you got a copy of. And I am at this meeting officially asking you to please search your hard drives and for any information that has to do specifically with the 175 Carter Road application. And that information could be anything from me, anything among yourselves, or anything from any other resident of the town of Kent. So if you could get all that stuff together and get it to me as soon as possible, this way I can get it to the attorneys so that they can satisfy the FOI request. And that's it.
Donna, does that mean you want sort of a screenshot of our file explorer, or do you want us to compile the actual documents?
I think for now you can do a file, a screenshot, that would be fine. And then if we need the actual documents, I'll let the attorneys decide what they need, and then we'll get them from you.
All righty.
Okay? And that's all I got. So we just need a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion. We adjourn.
Thank you, Adam.
All right. Thanks everybody for your patience. This we're certainly more efficient than we were last time. So thanks again and for your patience, and you guys are all great. I love you all.
Enjoy the rest of June and happy 4th of July.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Night.